Okay, Patrick,
Hello,
we've started.
Ellen. Hello, and thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I'm Patrick O'Riordan, the Director of the Department of Building Inspection. I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your day to ask questions, share your perspective, and offer your advice on how we can improve. Now, we have important updates today about the city's new online permitting systems, changes to how slopes are evaluated, and the new concrete building screening program. After that, we'll open up the floor to general questions. But first, I'd like to ask you to take our anonymous customer survey, which is shown on the screen, about your experience working with DBI and the Permit Center. The survey takes less than 10 minutes and will give us valuable insight into what is working well and where we can improve. The survey closes on Friday, January 30th at 5 p.m. So please just capture the QR code on the screen and complete it today. Thank you. Now I'll turn it over to PermitSF Director Liz Watty to present on the new permitting system.
Thank you, Patrick. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. We are really excited as part of the PermitSF team here to announce that we are getting very close to the moment where we are going to start moving to our new online PermitSF permitting portal with our first phase rolling out on February 13th. Next slide. So today, I wanted to brief everyone on the call of what we're rolling out with on the 13th. So hopefully most of you, this isn't the first time you're hearing that we're doing this, but things are starting to get real. As you know, we are undertaking a modernization effort for our antiquated technology systems, also using this as opportunities to evaluate our business processes and make improvements to how we do our work now that we will also have contemporary software to do our work, to track our work, and to leverage all of the benefits that contemporary software bring us. We are really looking at, when we embarked on this effort, two of our guiding principles were making sure that the improvements would be felt by both homeowners and businesses in this first phase. We also knew, though, in this first phase was the hardest phase to get right, and it's where the biggest amount of risk is posed based on previous efforts. And so we also wanted to make sure we were realistic with what we were biting off, knowing that there's a lot of back-end complexity that isn't on the permitting side of things, but just the back-end infrastructure that's hard. So we wanted to make sure that the permit types we're rolling out for February were manageable and digestible, but also packed a punch for customers. So that was sort of some of our guiding principles that we were balancing. So we are moving online. The 4 bullet points on the left-hand side of the screen here is what is going to be moving into this new PermitSF permitting portal in a few weeks. I think one of the most important things to frame for everyone is, as we move into this future state, we're going to be thinking about permits differently. We are going to be going away from the colored permits, from the Form 1-2, from the Form 3-8, from the Form 6s of the world, and breaking up our permits into sort of logical buckets that make more sense. And so with that, we are bucketing doors, windows, and siding in-kind replacements into one category type of permit. We have fire alarms as one, automatic sprinklers, fire sprinklers as one, and then a new endeavor is special event intake. We've seen that special event, folks who are wanting to put on special events really struggle with understanding where to even start, who to talk to, who the lead agency is, and what all permits are necessary to execute a given special event, whether that's in a public space or on private property. And so this new intake is helping to direct folks to the right city agencies. So all in all, some of the things that we wanted to highlight with this new system is that starting February 13th, applicants for these scopes of work can apply for permits online via a digital form. It's a smart form. It's a dynamic form. So based on how you answer the questions, it will only It'll guide you to answer follow-up questions that are only relevant to that scope. So unlike the current process where you have to fill out everything no matter what, you'll only moving forward fill out questions that are relevant to what you're proposing. Another important thing here that I think is a key feature that I want to highlight is you can save your application midstream and come back to it. So if you run into information that you just don't know the answer to, you don't have to start all over, which I think is a highlight. The other thing that we've factored into this that we've gotten feedback from customers on, especially folks who work in law firms or architecture firms where there are often multiple employees of those organizations who are helping to facilitate getting permits. So whether it's a paralegal who might be submitting the application, but you want the land use attorney listed or involved, or whether you have a couple different architects processing a permit, you're now able to do that through this portal and have different authorized users associated with a given permit. So I think that's a really cool feature. Once an applicant submits online, pays fully online, our staff will complete the intake review digitally, we'll process the application digitally, we'll engage with you as the customer when needed through effectively a Slack channel that is built in that will live on your permit, like on the permit portal side, so we can always track back and know how we've communicated or what we've talked about. It manages the inspections digitally, and permits will be issued from that portal as well. Documents uploaded, all of that. What this also gives us is better and smarter management tools on the inside to be able to manage staff and be able to manage performance in a more contemporary way based on real data. It also inherently gives customers and the public better visibility into the work that we're doing, the statuses, getting rid of that infamous, black box or black hole of permitting that we hear so often. Instead, we'll have that sort of Domino's pizza tracker, if you will, of understanding exactly where in the process you are and what's forthcoming. So you'll know sort of what's ahead of you and where you are in that process. There will be things like email alerts every time the ball is back in your court. Our staff will also get those alerts when the ball is back in our court. So some of those things where we often drop the ball because we don't know like that there is work pending for us, or you or customers don't know that we sent some sort of communication. Hopefully some of those fail points right now will be improved as a result of this. Let's move on to the next slide. I've gone through a lot of this, but we want to make sure it's really clear for all of you to know what to expect at launch. As I just mentioned, you create a simple free account. I would argue that if any of you are familiar with anything online, Amazon orders, food delivery apps, things of that nature, this should feel fairly second nature. This is not a complicated system to sign up for. It's very intuitive. But we are going to have a week prior to go live where we're going to have support, sort of a soft launch support period. So if folks want to create an account in advance, they need help creating an account, we are going to be staffed and ready to support you all. Once you create an account, that information is auto-populated moving forward, so you don't have to re-enter that information ever again, and it's stored there in perpetuity, so hopefully that'll take one little annoyance out for those of you who are frequent flyers. Also, if you happen to do work in other jurisdictions that use the same underlying OpenGov software, you don't have to create another new account. So it's sort of one account that will serve all of these. It'll also keep a collection of your active permits. So again, if you're somebody who processes a lot of permits, it'll help keep you organized of knowing what's in flight with the city. But again, we are really, really focused on making sure that both staff and customers are well trained and prepared, and we're here to support folks. And so we are here, our Permit Center support staff are here to help and can help folks in any way, especially in that soft launch week, but also once we go live and continuing for the weeks post-live. An important piece here, and that we've heard from some of our interviews with customers, is that folks love walking into the Permit Center and knowing they get a permit, even if they have to sit here all day. And although it's annoying to pay for parking, we get that. And so it was really important to us as part of this shift that we maintain the same sort of KPIs on our end, the same performance delivery of making sure that we deliver on our it's currently over-the-counter permits have a 2 business day service level agreement on our side. And we are carrying that forward in the digital space. We've got an email address down here, permitsf@sfgov.org, if you have any questions virtually between now and then. But with that, we'll go on to the next slide. We are wanting to, nothing beats a visual. I know a lot of us in this industry are visual learners. So we wanted to give you guys a live demo of what this digital permitting platform will look like. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our partner at OpenGov, Emily Corinne, who's going to give us a live demo so you all can see what the software will look like. Emily, take it away.
Thanks, Liz. Hello, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So I'm starting off, this is going to be where you're coming in to find the permit that you're looking to apply for. The links on the SFGov website will take you directly to the permit that you're looking to apply for. I'm starting here just to quickly kind of go over what that process is for signing up, like Liz mentioned. Super simple. I'm going to hit sign up here. I'm letting them know that I am going to be creating my OpenGov ID, clicking over to sign up. From here, you're just entering your email and password. It's going to, once you hit the sign up button, it's going to send an email automatically to whatever email you entered in here, just to authorize that email and make sure that it's real. And then from there, you'll be good to go with starting to apply for your permits. For those of you that already have an account or you are have signed up for it early during that week-long time period that Liz mentioned, or whatever that may be, I'm going to go ahead and hit login. Same idea, log in with that portal, and then I'm just going to enter in my username and password. There we go. And now that I'm logged in, I can start my process. So today I'm going to walk through what a door siding window permit is going to look like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this apply online button. Now that I'm logged into my applicant profile, it's automatically pre-pulling my details as an applicant. I've used this site before, so it's not my first application. So these details are pre-filling. If this is your first time going through an application, it is going to require that you enter these details in order to proceed. If you forget to log in or sign up and create your account before you hit apply online, no worries at all. It will prompt you to do that after you hit that button, just to make sure that you are logged in. As I kind of flow through, the first thing that's always going to pop up is going to be that applicant details, followed by selecting a location. When I select my location, then it's going to go ahead and pop up with the location that I've selected. Next up is when I'm getting into the bulk of my application. So like Liz mentioned, this is now a dynamic form. So it's a little bit different than what you're used to on that pink form. It's actually going to change based off the scope of work and different questions that I'm answering. Anything that has this little asterisk next to it is going to be a required field. So I have to enter that in order to proceed through my application. And then there's a few different types of fields that you may be asked to answer. Some will be free text, some will be more formatted. I'm going to go ahead. I can't type and talk at the same time, so bear with me here. And as I give some of those details and move on, so that was a free text entry, I can do check boxes. And as I check things off, it's going to prompt me to move forward with new questions as well. We have some drop downs in here where I'm choosing from a selected number of options. Some of these may also stop you. So these are going to be these are only over the counter. Sorry, these are not over the counter permits. Anything that requires plans and a formal review still has to go into the permit center. So you may come up to a situation like this where it's not going to allow you to move forward. And that's where you would then proceed in going into your usual fashion of going to the permit center to complete the application. You also may come up with some of these little tooltips here where I can hover over that little question mark and it's going to pop up with some additional information for me to review to help me kind of answer that question as I move forward. A lot of these should be familiar. and entering in what the details of this will be. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of speed through some of these questions as we are going through. And some of these have been cached because I've done this a few times. You can also see that those steps are kind of increasing based off of answers that I've given. So because I said I was doing a window permit, it's going to add in additional questions for windows. As I'm saying that I'm, having a contractor do the work, it's adding in sections for that as well. Applicant role, so who is the person, who am I that's applying for this permit? Getting some information. There are some links on here, so if you needed some help filling out this process, there are various links within here that I can enter. The contractor information section, this is automatically connecting to the California state licensing connection database. So all you'll have to do is search here either by name or by license number. And it's going to pull in what the options are there and then pre-populate the fields based off of what is available from the CSLB. The one thing you will have to enter is just an email for that contractor or for that person in order to proceed. Everything else is going to pre-fill from in here. Same thing with our business account number. This is coming from your licenses that you have with the city. So again, just searching either by the license number or the business account number or by the company name, and it's going to pre-populate those fields as well. Here's some of those window fields that I said that I was doing a window replacement. And again, just kind of following through, there are some additional options for tooltips in here and kind of going through those questions. Again, I'm just going to kind of speed through some of these, but there is additionally here some help text again for how to answer some of these questions, just for time's sake. And for the sake of getting through this, I'm again just kind of going to go really quickly. Our project valuation, this is a number field, so I have to enter a number in order to proceed. You don't have to enter like the $ or anything like that. It actually won't even accept it. So just entering the number of the valuation from here is all you need to do to proceed and move on. We have some attestations here, so just acknowledging that I've read all of the things for my windows. There are different ones for siding and doors and skylights as well, depending on what you're applying for. One thing that I did not do at the beginning of my application is I could have said that I'm doing both windows and doors on the same application. So you can apply for one permit to do a doors, siding, and window replacement all at once. We have some workers' comp information. This should look familiar based off of what you're used to applying for, and then kind of just authorizing that I can work on the property owner's behalf and can apply for this on their behalf as well. Again, you should be used to seeing this language, all of the attestations, important notices. These all came from that pink form that you're used to. And then I'm just on this one's going to be a little bit different where it's going to pop up and ask me to type my full legal name. And then I'm going to go ahead and digitally sign this application. Lastly is where we're uploading attachments. These are optional. So if you have specs, you can upload these at this time to provide to the reviewers as needed. Depending on the type of work, you may be required to upload photos for the planning department if it's a historical building. So there are some options in there based off of your work that you selected during the previous parts of the application. Lastly, just confirming and submitting. So reviewing all of the details that I entered and then submitting at the end. One thing that I always point out, because it's one of my biggest pet peeves, is if I do have to go back and edit something, maybe I wanted to add, or maybe I mistyped something, I can go back to that section and then it just takes me back to the confirmation page. I don't have to click through every section all over again. The other thing that Liz mentioned is if I am not going to be able to complete my application all in one sitting, I can hit this save draft and exit button. That will save it to my profile, so I can always come back to it and I don't have to finish it all in one sitting. It's very easy to find. It's going to be in your account. I'll show you that in a moment. And then when I am all done, down at the bottom of my screen, I will be able to go in and confirm and submit. Once I hit that button, it's sending it off to the DBI staff or to the permit center to kind of have it start through that review process. I can see my permit number over here on the left-hand side of my screen. I can see all of my submission details. I can view the attachments if I had uploaded them, or if a reviewer comes back and requests some of these specs or photos or something, you do have the ability to upload those at any time. This guest feature is where I can come in. I can enter the email of someone else that I'm working with. Maybe it's someone that I work directly with. Maybe it's the property owner or the contractor or whoever it may be. I can add their email in here and grant them access to this application, allowing them to log into their own OpenGov account and be able to follow along with this permit in the same way that I can. Those people, if they are added, will also be able to send messages back and forth on like that virtual Slack channel that Liz had mentioned. Or I can also pay fees. I can add attachments, requesting and viewing inspection results as well. And then along the left-hand side of my screen, I can see the different steps that I need to go through in order to get this application, get this permit. So I can kind of follow along with all of the steps that are needed to get from here to there. This is also where I can message back and forth with those reviewers if you have questions, or if they have a question for you, they can initiate that conversation from that side or from yours. And then this will update in almost real time as someone goes through and approves this intake review. I would see it. If I happen to be looking at the screen, it'll flash like it's refreshing and it would show that step, moving from this little blue play button to a green check mark. I mentioned finding my account and finding my dashboard. If I go to my account, this is where I can see everything that I have applied for. I can see anything that has a balance due. I can see if there was something that had come back to me. So the ball was back in my court and someone from the staff side had asked me to make an update to my application for some reason. I can see my messages. All of my permits will be here, as well as those applications and those drafts. There's also an easy way to kind of select what it is that I wanted to look for at a high level over along the left-hand side. If I know I am specifically looking for my payments or specifically looking for my inspections, I can kind of view those over on the left-hand side and quickly find them in one easy place. I think that's about it for the public portal. So thank you so much, and I'll hand it back to, I think, Liz.
Thank you, Emily. Just last slide here. We wanted to give folks a timeline. I think we've kind of said this ad nauseum. We are going live on the 13th of February. So where we are right now in the process is we are finalizing our final tweaks and testing and training for staff. So we are really making sure that our staff are getting hands on the keyboard training, so they're super familiar with this new system for the scopes of work that are going live in February. We are kicking off a bunch of other ways to communicate with customers. So today is one of those, but we are also doing a lot of other methods of outreach. So more to come on that. Starting February 9th, we're doing the soft launch week. So registration will open. We're here to help. You can either do that online at your own leisure, or come into the permit center if you want somebody to kind of walk you through or kind of effectively go through one of these demos with you. And then once we go live, we're going to continue to iterate and take feedback. Like with any software launch, we don't expect it to be perfect. I'm sure we're going to find things that we're going to want to adjust. We have a really robust support team from the software vendor as well as city staff that are going to be around for several weeks after go live to make those tweaks, make those adjustments, and make sure everything is running smoothly for customers. Once we are done with this batch, there will be more to come. So this is just the beginning. We want to make sure we get this right so we can really iterate on this and sort of snowball the types of permits to come and get us all in the same system as soon as possible, which is our ultimate goal. And with that, next slide, I think wraps the presentation. Just that this is a website that you guys can follow along. Our website has been updated with these timelines and these updates at this URL, so feel free and follow along. That concludes my presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Liz, and thank you, Emily. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Omren from the Department of Building Inspection. I wanted to pause here and see if there's any feedback or questions that anyone watching would like to ask about this topic. If you're joining us on your computer or on your Teams mobile application and would like to ask a question, you can either type it in the chat or click the raise hand button at the top of the application to get in line. And when I call your name, you'll have to unmute and ask your question. If you're calling in by phone and you have a question, dial *5 to raise your hand. And when I call your name, you'll have to dial *6 to unmute. Now, do we have any questions from our audience? Looks like we have some in the chat. First question is from Jason Wang. Hi, Elizabeth. We already have an online account for inspection scheduling. Does the existing account work for pulling the permits?
No, that's a great question. So the existing online account you have for our current inspection scheduling is through our current software portal, which is the permit tracking system. That is a completely different software than what we just presented on. So you will need to make a new account for anything new that you want to file, any new permits. So what I would say the easiest way to think about this is if you previously submitted, you'll keep status quo. You'll use that online account for inspection scheduling that you already have for those permits that you filed sort of the old way. For anything new that you file in this new PermitSF permitting portal, you will use this system and get a new online account. So for a while, we are straddling two systems. We are wanting to move as quickly as we can to get off of that. But for the time being, it's you stay fully in the system that you originally filed in. Hopefully that makes sense.
Great, thank you. Next question is from Anthony A., who asks, can someone else pay and how do we grant them access to payment?
Yes, absolutely. So that was the feature that Emily showed where you can add a guest. We see this as a very likely scenario. Actually, a best practice would be that if you are not the homeowner and you're doing it on behalf of a client, that you always add the homeowner as a guest onto the system. Typically, that's what we see is that it's the homeowner who will be doing the payment, but you are handling the rest of the permit. And so that's a perfect use case for adding the homeowner as a guest.
Great. Awesome. Next, we have a question from Rosanna Cipraso. If we do not have a contractor at the time of applying for the permit, can we enter TBD or leave blank?
I believe the answer for this scope of work, because door siding and window permits often, depending on the type of building, does not require that you have a licensed contractor to the work. And certainly anyone from DBI, jump in here if I've got this wrong. So you can't, I believe for DSW, you can apply without having a contractor. But when a contractor is required for the work, you do need to have a contractor listed before you can pull the permit. And I will just say, for everyone on the forum, I am by far not the person most in the weeds on all of the nitty-gritty details of the software. I've not been the one working on the programming or the design. So I am here to hopefully answer some high-level questions, but I may not be able to go as granular and deep as some of these questions, but we're happy to get back to you. And I do see, Mary, if you've got responses to that are, you've got more color to add, please jump in here.
Yes, Mary, I just
Hi everybody.
enabled your mic.
So that's a really good question. So I think a good way to think about these door siding and window permit applications is that although we're doing these online, these are still those no plans permits that we would normally be or previously be processing over the counter. So we want to process these in a very short period of time for you all. So if you are utilizing a contractor, you would want that information in the permit application upon submittal.
Great, Thank you, Mary. Next, we're gonna go over to the hand raisers, the raised hands. Ann Cervantes, I just enabled your mic. Feel free to unmute and ask your question.
I know that you're just talking about the window replacement and the small projects attached to buildings that don't need a large submittal. But the problem here is in the nonprofit sector, when you're doing this work for them, you have to provide a permit in order for them to get funded. I'm wondering how you do that. Can you still use that TBD until they get funded? Have you interface with MOCD and their processes, the requirements for funding? Because they need a permit before they can fund the project. They do preliminary funding, but they need it. Sometimes you don't have the contractor until it gets funded.
So I'm not totally following your question here. So are you saying for like a window permit for a nonprofit
Right.
building owner?
Yeah, right.
So you can be,
if the scope is funded by MOCD, you have to pull a permit before you can get funded.
but it's still for like a window permit is my point though.
As a window permit, yes. There's some of them have old buildings,
Yeah.
that need a window replaced because it's leaking.
And maybe I'll need to defer to DBI on this, but the protocol should be the same. If you're able to be like an owner builder like you are today, we won't require you to have a contractor identified. But if it's a scope of work that requires a contractor license to pull that particular scope of work, then you'll need to have that contractor listed. So nothing about this moving to this software system will change what those current protocols are. So that protocol should really remain the same as it is today. So the software shouldn't change any of that protocol.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Anne. Next in the chat, we have a couple of questions. Will non-structural bath / in-kind and kitchen remodels be added anytime soon? That question was from Danielle, and we have another question from Anthony. Will tree permits be part of this too?
For both of those are not in this first phase scope. We have not yet defined what's coming next, but we love the crowdsourcing and excitement. So if you guys, members of the public, are itching to move some of these into this platform, please let us know so that can help advise and inform what we roll out next. So not in this phase, but we'll take notes on in-kind kitchen and bathroom as well as tree permits. Those are great suggestions.
Great. Next question is from Heather. What is the expected lead time for review?
As I mentioned earlier, we currently have a commitment for these permit types to be 48-hour turnaround time, or our precise is 60% of the time we complete them in 48 hours. That's our current performance metric, and that will remain the same. So 48 hours is our goal, and hopefully less, but we will see. But we are not changing the protocol from where it is today.
Wonderful. Now we have a question from Ronald DeMartini. Ronald, please unmute your mic and ask away.
Hello, ladies. I get fire alarm over-the-counter permits with Plan Check, and sometimes it takes us as little as an hour, maybe two, to walk in there and walk out of there with the permit in my hand. Under the new online procedure, do you guys have an anticipated time of when the whole process will take when I enter my stuff, and then when everybody's done and I can get my drawings? Is there some period of time that you guys can tell me?
That's so what I just answered for the question before you. So 48 hours.
You think it'll just be 2 days, Liz?
That is what our KPI is shooting for on these over-the-counter permits. The ones that are over the counter today, we want to make sure that service level is maintained for folks. So for things, and again, I will say the door siding and windows is what I'm more familiar with. So certainly somebody on the city team correct me if I'm wrong here, but anything today that is over the counter, one of our primary goals and drivers on this was to not change the expectation that customers have for the amount of time it will take the city to process these. So if they're over the counter today, it will be made, and by over the counter, you know, we're giving ourselves the 48 hours, the 2 days. That's what our current SLA is, and that will remain true. Mary, did you have any color you wanted to add to that?
No, I just wanted to just kind of reiterate, yeah, the reason that we're shooting for these pretty aggressive SLAs is because we understand that this is a process that we're moving from over the counter to an online process. And so we are going to be trying to achieve the same timing that we currently have set for over-the-counter permits. Now, I do want to be clear that the 48 hours that Liz is talking about is business days. So for example, if you apply for your permit on a Saturday, there's not going to be anybody that's reviewing it on Sunday. So we're probably looking at, you know, Wednesday morning or Tuesday late. But I just want to be clear that we are using like business time to create this SLA. But yeah, we are going to be trying for a very aggressive SLA, and that is what our goal is currently.
And the one thing they'll, yeah, and I'll just add on to that, you know, we are also hoping that, you know, we know a lot of folks who come in, especially I know for a lot of the fire only permits, folks are coming in from the North Bay or for the East Bay to get permits. You know, there's time stuck driving, there's bridge tolls, there's parking tolls. So there are other costs kind of associated with coming in, but there is sort of a known expectation that you're going to walk away with a permit. And so we really wanted to be able to provide the convenience and the cost savings of not having to track down to the permit center to enable folks to be able to submit things on a, you know, Sunday night if they wanted to, and not have to, you know, interrupt their work week doing that necessarily, but still have a reasonable time frame to turn around that expectation.
And I have just one more quick question.
Please.
If once the online permitting starts and it's scheduled for February 13th, would I still be able to come in and get an over-the-counter review with fire after the 13th?
Not for these permit scopes.
Okay, thank you.
These are wholesale moving. Yep, no, that's a great question.
That's it.
Great. Thank you so much. Next, we have a question from Larisade Mahmood Jr. Please unmute your mic and ask your question.
Hi, yeah, I basically had the same question that Ron had a few minutes ago. The reason why I had to ask the stupid question is because there's so many permits that I do that you know, they're not necessarily a fire alarm, but a fire alarm revision. And you basically answered the question. I was wondering if we can come in and, you know, try to do something for a revision that's like something that's on a really tight timeline. But I think you guys already answered it. So yeah, that was basically the biggest concern I had was you know, trying to you know, get something online and really think it's going to take a day or two. But I think, you know, going out through the process, it'll get better, hopefully. So those are my questions because I probably going to do a couple. So it's just I was just a little worried and about all the timelines, but it sounds like 2 days is about the same time as you get a permit anyways. But like Ron is saying, he can get it in an hour, and I'm sure that's going to be frustrating for some people. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a question from Brian Tam. How will this new system coincide with permit reviews such as EPR, OTC, etc.?
Kelly, can I just step in for the fire contractors?
Yes.
I wanted to just give one more piece of information. I know for the people that do a lot of fire alarm and fire suppression permits, that you may be sort of in mid-review. You may have had a set of plans that you brought in. You went to through the over-the-counter service, and you were given some comments, and you're kind of in mid-correction right now. For anything that's already in the system, we can continue to honor that plan review over the counter, but for any new applications that you'll be submitting, we'll need to have you submit through the OpenGov portal. So if that helps to clarify a little bit.
Thank you, Mary. Appreciate that.
And I'm happy to jump in on the question on how the new system coincide with permit review, like EPR and over the counter. Every aspect of what is needed to review a permit. So if the permit did need plans, which mind you, outside of the fire permits, like the door setting window permits are no plans permits, so you don't need it. But if they did, in future phases, everything will be wrapped up into this new system. So it should be all encompassing in this new system for the permits that you're seeking. You shouldn't need to jump into different systems or different tools. We are going to be integrating everything into this one platform. So for go live, we're keeping it really simple here. These are no plans per over the counter permits, and then the fire permits, which do have plans. The fire staff will be using Bluebeam to do basically markup of those, but it's not going to be in the same way where there's sort of a dynamic back and forth within a session of Bluebeam. Fire staff will issue comments directly to folks. So over the counter will still remain for the scopes that are not in this February go live. So, if you're doing a deck permit on a single family home, that's still status quo. That's still, you show up at the permit center, you pull a pink permit, you go to the counters to do it. So it's just for these scopes that we flagged that will be fully in this new PermitSF portal.
Wonderful. Thank you, Liz. Next, we have a question from David Frasser.
Yes, I'm a fire alarm contractor. I also already been submitting drawings electronically because of the 50 device rule that San Francisco Fire has now for over the counter. When you say you're going to have the drawings out, reviewed, and a permit issued in 2 days, I can't see that happening because you're going to submit your drawing. We're going to submit our drawings. We go through your intake procedure. Then you send it to the fire department, and they get put into a queue. Right now, the queue without being expedited is, I believe, 4 weeks. So when you say that the 2 week intake, is that being you've routed it to San Francisco Fire, or San Francisco Fire has already reviewed and sent and approved it or sent comments out? Can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah. Oh, Kathy,
Oh.
yes, we can hear you. Just
okay.
Finding the right person to answer your
moment.
question. Kathy, why don't you go ahead and take that one?
Great.
Kathy's mic. There you go.
Hi. Great. Thank you. Yeah, we're still gonna separate plans. Plans that we review over the counter, OTC, that meet a certain criteria that we can review very quickly. We're gonna have 2 piles of plans. So in-house, we're gonna have a group that would have been at the counter that will be in-house in their cubicles working on plans that can be reviewed within an hour. And then staff will also have a separate log of plans that that take more than an hour. So our goal is to stay within that 48-hour turnaround for plans that currently can be reviewed over our counter.
Will we be able to get the Bluebeam session number so we can watch or review or just monitor the review, or is there comments from the reviewer? Are we going to be able to go on to the Bluebeam session and make the changes?
Want me to jump in, Kathy?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So no, for this subset, for this go live in February, there will not be Bluebeam sessions for these. So the Bluebeam tool will be used by the fire department staff as a markup tool for internal purposes only. Again, these are short reviews. We do not expect needing to get customers in there and collaborate. So this is going to be used as a markup tool for the fire department to use their to do their review. If they need any changes, the way they will communicate with you is through this sort of messaging tool within the software. So if they need to ask you to go in and change something, they will very clearly be able to articulate that through the permit you submitted in the online portal, and they will clarify, hey, I need you to go in and change precisely this thing. You will get an email. It will be in your dashboard from where you logged in your account. So you'll get an alert if you need to change something, but you will not be in the Bluebeam session.
Okay.
Okay.
And the account, when you make the account, that's for specific to one person. And in my company, we have 2 people that do submit drawings, and we have 3 people that will review drawings that for comments. Does each person have to have its own account and be on the and then we can add all those people onto the form so they can have access? Is that how it's going to work?
So I think you guys will need to figure out what system works for your own company based on how you guys are structured. But a couple of things that will be helpful. Employees within your company can be added on to a given permit as authorized agents. So there will need to be one person, who has the primary account, who kicks it off, who's submitting it. But if hey, Joe and Bob are also going to need to jump in here, and we might sort of hand off responsibilities of answering questions and handling getting this permit issued, add Joe and Bob on as authorized agents. They'll have accounts, they'll be linked to this, and they'll be able to manage and communicate within the system the same way you would be. So I think that's one way to do it. You guys will have to decide who's in the driver's seat of the initial submitter and who's an authorized agent, but I think you guys will kind of get the hang of it. It's pretty straightforward. But so everyone should create their own account in your company. So everyone during that soft launch week, everyone really quickly signs up. Again, it takes like less than 5 minutes. It's like signing up for an Amazon account. Sign up for an account, and then you guys can figure out who wants to be sort of the add-on user and who wants to be the primary lead, depending on just sort of your business needs of who's sort of PMing the permitting process for your company.
Okay. One more question. Sorry. We're required, because we have fire alarm, we have to submit drawings, but also we're required to submit reference drawings, architecturals and mechanicals. Are we going to still have to do that, or because you're now linking everything to the project, it seems, will those be able to access? Will the reviewer be able to access that through your software, or do we still need to provide those documentations as the fire department's the AB 2.01 states?
So if staff need to refer to a previously approved permit that we have in our paper vision, in our sort of historical file records management, our staff will look that up on their own without you needing to upload that information. However, all documents that are new that are associated with this permit that we wouldn't otherwise have some access to, you'll need to upload those directly. So we shouldn't be asking you all to upload old permits that we as the city should have access and visibility into. So we will only need to upload drawings for the permit at hand.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you. Now we have a question from Greg Carr.
So I believe the gentleman just answered or asked the same question I was going to ask, is that for fire alarm permits, a lot of times we have to submit approved architecturals for reference only to verify that our fire alarm plans are in line with the approved architecturals. And so that was going to be my question. If we need to supply those approved architectural plans, or if somehow there's a database that fire staff will be able to access to reference those documents. Typically, we have to print out hard copies and bring them in for reference, architectural, mechanicals, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, in general, this is a protocol that we are trying to shift to as an entire city across all permits, not just what we're going live for in February, is that if the city is in possession of it and can access it, to have our staff, our staff should now all have, shockingly, we all have to have licenses in order to access some of this sort of old historical files. I believe we are at the place now where all staff should have that permission and access to do it. And so you should not need to. Now, by all means, we all know also though, like if you like hand deliver every single piece of information that the staff reviewer can possibly need and they don't need to pivot to other things, it usually helps make things go just that much faster. So certainly if you've got this information, it's on the tip of your tongue, you've got it, you can upload it, you've got that reference doc. It certainly does not hurt to do that. It will always make things that much faster. But you are not going to be, deemed incomplete or turned away, or, being asked to upload that later if it's something that we're in possession of. But certainly it doesn't hurt if you've got it easily accessible.
Okay. And to piggyback off that initial question, what about in a situation if the architectural permit that we're linking our fire alarm permit to, if that was recently approved, say within 2 to 3 weeks, will staff still have access to that, or is there a timeline involved on when that permit will be, I'll say, annexed into their database of accessible files?
I'll need to maybe lean on Mary here or somebody on our team of like what the current turnaround time is from recently approved permits into being archived in paper vision. I would say the tighter the sort of time frame is from when it was issued to when you're filing one of these might increase the pragmatic side of wanting to upload a copy sort of for reference purposes. But I don't know, Mary, if you know what the current turnaround timeline is for things getting uploaded into paper vision.
Yeah, I think it is right around 3 weeks. So I think it takes about 3 weeks before anything is uploaded into city records. What we can do is if you have, a project that is specifically urgent, what we can do is our CPP staff can take a look into the Bluebeam session, and we can potentially be able to upload from the Bluebeam session. But I think in that case, we wouldn't want to make that like a habit. We would rather that the contractors be able to kind of wait that three week period, just because then we're drawing everything from like the same location. But if you had an urgent situation, I think you could reach out to the Department of Building Inspection. We can take a look and see if we can help you with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we've got a question from David Penn. David, take it away.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just going to more of a point than a question to Liz and the whole team. I think one of the things that makes OTC review as it currently exists so fast is not just how limited the scope is, right? Like Chief Harold was talking about. Things that can be reviewed in under an hour. Currently, OTC will be put in a separate bucket for these fire-onlys that are launching on this new system in February. But one of the things, and that all makes sense, there's just certain scopes that are smaller and don't require as much time. But one of the things that makes the OTC process so quick, valuable, and efficient is that the dynamic interplay between the applicant and the reviewer. So oftentimes comments come up that can be resolved, in a 5-10 minute conversation with some quick and back and forth. And if it requires now, review, comments issued, those comments then get sent even through a very efficient system to the team. And then they have to reply. And then there's some period of time before the reviewer reviews those and gets back to them. All of a sudden, something that could have been resolved in a 3.5 minute conversation may take, 3-4 days. So I just wanted to make that point. to the team as you guys continue to look at what additional permits, and scopes get incorporated into this. And if that feature, that insanely valuable feature of the OTC process, the dynamic review with the applicant, can somehow be preserved.
Thank you for sharing. Next, we have a question from Patrick Quatch. Patrick, take it away.
If I decide to go ahead and provide the reference drawings to speed up the process for the plan checker, is there going to be limitations on how big files we can upload? And that's number one. And then number two is there going to be a way for us to label those files saying reference drawings architectural or reference drawings mechanical?
I might ask if Emily is still on, if she quickly knows how big the file size limit is.
Yes,
For sure they can be labeled so that we can answer that. But yeah, go ahead, Emily.
Yeah, so they can be labeled. If you remember, there was an add attachment button below the, it was the specs and then the title 24, and then it said add attachment on the one I went through. You can hit add attachment. From there, you can label it yourself with whatever you want to call it. The file size limit is 250 megabytes.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be an issue.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Patrick. I'm going to go back over to the chat. Anthony asks, if the windows change is per se in a historic building, will we get a notice saying that we have to complete OTC? Will I have the information I had input in the online form, or will I have to start a new form?
So all window replacement permits, whether they're historic or not, will be through this new portal. So we are not carving out historic. In fact, we have designed this system to ask questions that will tease out dependent on whether it's historic. So you don't need to know if it's historic. We have that GIS layer. And so when you put in the address, the system will know this is a historic property, and then it will ask questions. So depending on what level of historic it is, it will, ask whether they're visible from the street or not. And based on those questions, it will ask you the right questions relevant to whether it's historic or not. And then it'll also route to the right folks, i.e. the planning department staff, if it needs the review. So all of that will still be handled within this new online system. But we also will be feeding the information. So right now, sort of customers sometimes have to figure out whether or not they think it's historic or not to understand what their process might be and what the expectations are. And instead in this system, you will actually be prompted through the questions that are relevant to a historic building if it is historic.
Great, thanks, Liz. Next I have a question, Jason Wang. When I pull a building permit that is not available online with the street space permit, can I do it in person for both?
The answer is yes, and we're going to get into that in the next topic of the presentation. We will require you to go into the Public Works Permits portal to start your application, but you're welcome to come to the Permit Center and do your plan check in person. To David Penn's point, sometimes that back and forth with a plan checker is really the most efficient way to get work done, and we fully support that.
Thank you, Mandy. We're going to take one more question for this topic, and then we'll have to move on to the next agenda item. But if you have additional questions about this, there will be more opportunities to ask later on in this forum. Next question is from Antonio Ramirez.
Good afternoon. I'm Antonio with Renewal by Anderson. Mainly my question is about withdrawal or withdrawing permits. I wasn't sure if I missed it or I didn't see the option on the portal when it comes to withdrawing permits. And are the requirements still going to be the same, which is a photo ID of the customer and a letter saying that they want to withdraw their permits?
Mary, are you able to handle sort of protocol for withdrawals on this one to answer that question?
Sure. Yeah, nothing is changing for the withdrawal requirements. You know, our withdrawal requirements are outlined in our building code. So withdrawals do have to be made by the owner's request. And so we'll be following those same processes for withdrawal. We'll just upload those documents into this system when we process the withdrawal.
Okay, so we could do that through the portal when it comes to withdrawing.
Yeah, you could, there's an opportunity to send messages through the portal, and there's also an opportunity to upload documents into the portal at any time during the application process. So if, for example, you had kind of a reversal on something, you would be able to send a message to our intake team and let them know that you are requesting a withdrawal of the permit. And then you can upload the withdrawal application to that permit application.
Okay, I understand. And one other question is, if we apply online and we needed it to be expedited sooner, are we able to go in person and try to push the application to move it forward?
No, so we're not creating like a hybrid review process here for these applications. We just don't have like the bandwidth and our staffing to be able to, you know, process things in multiple ways. And so when you do, you know, apply online, your application will be processed as such. And additionally, if these are no plans applications, this will be the venue to apply. So there will not be, you know, an in-person option if you do show up at the permit center. But that's why we have set that SLA or that goal to be able to complete processing on these applications and the minor checks that we do with these applications within a very short period of time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Antonio, and thank you everyone for your questions. Thank you, Liz and Emily, for your presentations. Next, we have a presentation on the Public Works permitting portal, and Amanda Johnson and Bernie Say will take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mandy Johnson, and I'm a project manager here at the Permit Center. And Bernie is with me as well. You'll meet him in a couple minutes. We're here to talk with you about the new Public Works Permits portal. Next slide. Which launches tomorrow with 4 permit types: street space, temporary occupancy, sidewalk repair, and right-of-way conformity inspections. These 4 types make up 62% of permitting transactions in Public Works. Next slide. So what's changing for you? We're phasing out paper. Instead of filling out a paper form here at the Permit Center for these 4 permit types, or emailing a PDF to Public Works, you'll submit your permit application online. You can use a computer, a tablet, or your phone. Next slide. You'll have an account in the portal. It's easy to register. You need an email address. If you're a business, you also need your business account number or BAN. If you're a contractor, you need your contractor license number. You only have to give us this information once, and then it's automatically tied to the applications you submit. With your portal account, you can apply for a permit and see real-time status, obviously, but you can also pay fees, upload documents and photos, download your tow-away signs, message your plan checker, schedule an inspection, and see your permit history. And if you're part of a business, you can see the permits submitted by other employees so that you can collaborate and cover with each other. Bernie will show you what that looks like in just a minute. Next slide. Other changes coming with the portal. First, Public Works is collecting an intake fee, which is an upfront deposit toward your total permit fees. So for example, if I apply for a 3-month street space permit, I'll pay a $27 intake fee upfront before plan review, then my remaining fees at the end. If you happen to be at the Permit Center for any reason, you can go into the Public Works queue for plan checks as soon as you submit your application. And we'll just lump in the intake fee with all your other fees after you go through plan review. Second, you now have the option to adjust your start date before you pay your final fees. So, for example, if your subcontractor is delayed by a week, you can update your permit start date to push it out a week before you pay your final fees and get your tow-away signs. Third, you can pay for the city printed tow-away signs at the same time that you pay your final permit fees. So when you're applying for a permit on the portal, there's a simple yes/no question. Do you want the city to print your tow-away signs? If you say yes, the city printed sign fees are a line item included in your final permit fees. Once you've paid your fees, you can go to the print center and pick up your signs. Last but not least, no more parking plans. You guys probably already knew this, but it bears repeating. Next slide. So what I'd like to do now is turn it over to Bernie because he wants to show you a day in the life of a portal user. Let's flash forward to mid-February and see what it would look like if you're really using the system. So take it away, Bernie. I can't hear you, Bernie.
Sorry about that. Okay, there was a glitch. I forgot to unmute. So this is our Public Works portal landing page. You can register for an account, and Mandy mentioned the 3 types of accounts, and you just click through here. You can look up permits without having to be logged on. So it's a public lookup function. But for today's demo, we're going to log in as a user. And this is the first page you're going to encounter. It's our home page. Nice shiny buttons here for my permits. If you want to start a new permit, if you want to pay your permit fees, and then there's a permit guide. And go to my permits. And so when I get to work, I log into my permits. I see all of my permits here that are, and because this is a business account and Larry is one of my coworkers, I can see Larry's permits. This field, I can search by permit number or sort by permit number. I can sort by applicant. It gives you this address, the permit type, phase and status, and if there was any fees owed. But you know, my coworker Larry, he's on vacation today. He wants me to help him with his permit. So if I click through, this is the permit that Larry started. Across the top here is kind of our status bar. You can see that it's been through an application, compliance check, payment, issuance, and it's actually waiting for tow sign information. This is a street space permit, so if we need to get our tow signs, we just come over here to files, quick click here, and there's a download button up here. You can download your tow sign. And then he's ready to get his tow sign photos uploaded. So we can come to submit documents. And these are the different types of submittals, but we want to submit tow-away signs. And here are some photos of tow-away signs. I can shift click and select multiple. I can open it up and we're loading tow signs. We're done. I can click next and I finish the submission request. And what you'll notice is it did say tow sign photos, which is an applicant, job to do. It is now under tow sign review, and so the status bar has moved forward a step. And you can see that it's now in the city's court for tow sign review. All right. I think we mentioned that you could pause permits. And it's really easy to pick up a pause permit. So I can come here to my pause permits. And here's a permit I have for Anza Street that was paused. And this brings you back to our permit application page. And I'm going to show you a few steps in the map and how you select street segments in our permits. So you enter the address, and it's going to be 1920 Anza. And I don't have to type the whole address out. It searches the city address database and pulls it up. Say next. Takes you to a map of the city and zooms in to your street segment. And I can click on that segment and select it for my permit. You can select more than one segment. I'll show you that really quick. So I can actually select multiple segments for the permit, but for this demonstration, I'm just going to go back to the one segment. We're going to ask you some other questions. Is it an odd or even side of the street? And it's the even side of the street. I don't know why I can't click that. Oops. There's a little glitch. And then it's going to ask you how much street space do you want for this segment? So I need 20 feet. And it's asking if you need parking towaway signs. And we say, yes, I want parking towaway signs. And it'll ask you for the towaway information. So when do you want it to start? We'll say 6 a.m. We want to end at 4:30. We want it Monday through Fridays. The contact name that's going to show up on the towaway sign, a contact phone number, and then it will ask you if you have parking meters. Fill that there. We're not going to ask for towaway signs for that segment. And then it'll bring you to a confirmation page. It's the 1900 block of Anza Street, the even side. I want 20 feet. Here are the working hours or the tow sign hours. And I can continue on. It's going to ask you a bunch of other questions about who the applicant is. It'll ask you if you're enrolled in first year free. It'll ask you if you have optional contractor information. And since I have other things to do now, I'm going to pause the application back again. So I can pause multiple times. I put 1920 Anza. And I repause that application. Going back to the My Permits page where I can see all the permits or my permits. And I notice up here, there's the alert that there's been some sort of communication for me. If I click on there, Amanda Johnson commented on one of my permits. And if I come over to the permit view, I can see messages from staff. And here's a history of a question from Mandy that says, just to confirm, do you want 35 linear feet? I can just say, yes. Thanks for asking. And post the comment back to her. And then back one more time to my permits. Mandy mentioned the start date change. So I can come back through to this and change the start date. Let me find the project. This project here on Golden Gate, this street space project is ready for final payment, but before I make my payment, I can change the start date. So it's February 2nd. My contractor is delayed, or I'm delayed as the contractor, right? I could switch it to February 9th. The new permit start date is February 9th. And now, once I make payment for my permit, it'll change the start date without having to go back to Plan Checker to get those edits made. That concludes my demo for today. I guess I throw it back to Kelly.
Thank you, Bernie. Amanda, did you want to go through the new user journey for OTC as well?
Well, I think we can, since there is interest in how that would work in our new hybrid world. So if you, for any reason, are in the permit center or want to come to the permit center for plan check for these 4 permit types, we still need you to start your application in the portal. So when you check in at the help desk, the customer service team will help you register if you don't have an account yet, and will help you make sure that you get all the way through to finishing submitting the application. At that point, you'll have a permit number, and the help desk will have you join the queue for Public Works. So if you go next slide, then you'll go to the Public Works counter and have that back and forth with the plan checker, very similar to what you're already used to. And when that plan check is done, they'll be able to send you over to pay your fees at the kiosk, just like you're used to. Like I mentioned before, if you happen to be here in person, we're going to roll all of the fees into a single kiosk transaction. So we're not going to ask for that $27 at the help desk and then ask for the rest of it 30 minutes later. So you pay your fees at the kiosk like you're used to. Then at that point, the Public Works counter people can queue you to the print center. And next slide, you know where the print center is. So you can walk over there and pick up your signs. So that's kind of what it'll look like when you're going through these permit types and you want to or happen to be doing it in person. Really, our belief and our hope is that it'll be so convenient and fast to do it online that probably the over-the-counter traffic is going to decline over time. But we're here to support you and what works best for you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Amanda and Bernie. Do we have any questions from the audience or any feedback? Give it a second to give people time to raise hands. I don't see any hands. Let's look at the chat here. Aha, we have a raised hand. Ken Brogno, take it away. You'll have to unmute your mic.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Okay. So is there a way for the public to track permits And if so, I mean, I'm looking to see where I can get in to do that, but I don't know how to sort them by, say, address.
Yeah,
Is
there
that going to be a
is.
possibility?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it is part of our launch. If you go to the link in the chat, you won't see anything because we officially launch tomorrow. So there aren't any permits to see except possibly some of our testing permits. But without having a user account, if you go to the home page, you can click the link for permit lookup. And then you can search by address or by permit number. And there are other columns there where you can also sort. So yeah, there's limited information that's available to the public. You know, we don't show them everything, but we do want to have a level of transparency there.
I am seeing that. I'm just not seeing where address would be part of that, but maybe that's still to come. I'm not sure.
I mean, if you're in production, it's empty. I don't have anything to show you.
Right.
Ask me
No,
again on
I can see
Monday, and
where
I bet
I
there'll
can
be
see where
stuff to see.
there are tests listed,
Yeah, a
but I
couple
don't
test
see
things in there.
address. I see number, phase, status, that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. And it looks like we don't have any other questions about this topic. Thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Bernie, for your demo for the new portal. Now we have David Kane, who will be discussing slope engineering evaluation changes. David, take it away.
Thank you, Kelly. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So many of you have heard that there was a repeal of the Slope Protection Act, and so we are no longer following the S19 and would encourage you to take a look at S05, which we've updated for the new requirements. Kelly, we can go ahead and advance. So a little background on this, as many of you have dealt with in the past, the slope protection really had some onerous requirements for height and review, even SAC review in some cases. It also added additional geology review and created quite a bit of a delay in our plan review process. So we're really looking forward to, as we're moving forward, to having more discretion in the project types that we are assigning to third-party review and really trying to keep it to a limited focus of only really the most severe projects and those projects in landslide zones. Next slide. So the criteria which is stated in the SO5, it's similar to the previous requirements from S19 of the Slope Protection Act. But now we are looking at these not based on the slope of the site as the only criteria, but really those project sites that are either in or immediately adjacent to a landslide zone. So the requirements are somewhat similar to the previous requirements, again, just focused on landslides. So new buildings greater than 1,000 feet, additions that create more than 1,000 square feet of new floor area, which is measured cumulatively over the last 3 years. Earthwork, so excavation or fill that is 50 cubic yards or more. And then we will reserve special situations for conditions that we see potentially creating slope instability, landslide issues that we will retain discretion on to still bring in a third-party review when necessary. Next slide. So as you can see here, this is the previous map of areas that were subject to the Slope Protection Act, which was based on a slope of 25%. It really covered quite a large swath of the city. And so moving forward now, we will be refocusing our heightened reviews to really only the most severe cases that are limited to landslide zones. So you can see quite a bit of a dramatic difference and reduced area. So next slide. So again, I encourage you to take a look at info sheet SO5, especially if you are an architect or engineer who is doing work in or near landslide zones. It also covers our requirements for geotechnical reports as well, and also refer you to our webpage for additional information. So with that, Kelly, I think we can pause to take a few questions if there are any.
Yep. Thank you, David. Do we have any questions from the audience about this topic? All right. Thank you so much, David.
Yeah, and if there's if you have an upcoming project that is either at or near a landslide zone, would encourage you to reach out to either myself or one of our staff if you have questions or concerns about how a third-party review may apply to your project.
Great. Thanks for that. We have a question from David Penn. David, take it away.
Hey, just because no one else raised their hand, I just wanted to let David know that I've got a project going through this process, and so far it's going really well. Just kudos to you and the team for this process improvement that I think will have big impacts on the city and the development community. And so far, so good. Thank you so much, David.
That's great to hear. Thank you, David.
Thanks for sharing your feedback, David. And thank you, David, for your presentation. Next, we have Laurel Matthews, who will be presenting on the concrete building screening program. Laurel, take it away.
Thanks, Kelly. Hi, everyone. I realize we're really close to the end, so I will try to be quick. My name is Laurel Matthews. I'm a program manager in the Permit Services Division, and I'm here to provide an update on the concrete building screening program and a really quick mini walkthrough of the form. I know we have had a lot of walkthroughs of technology today, so I'll be quick. Next slide, Kelly. As a refresher, I presented on this topic in September, I believe. But the goal of the concrete building screening program is to develop an inventory of concrete and tilt-up buildings to better understand and address the city's seismic vulnerability. This program, which launched in December, requires some building owners or their design professionals to submit basic building information to the Department of Building Inspection through an online screening form. The form will tell us whether the building is a concrete building, tilt-up, or neither. The deadline for completing this form for building owners who've received a notice that they're subject to the program is June 9th of 2027. So they have about 18 months to comply. Only one form should be submitted per building. So in buildings with multiple owners, like condominiums, the HOA or property manager should coordinate the response on behalf of the whole building. There's no fee for submitting this form to DBI. The form leads users through a series of questions which are designed to determine if the building meets the code definition of a concrete building or a tilt-up. Once the form determines that a building is exempt, the form will end and a submission confirmation will be sent by email. To prepare for filling out the form, I recommend reviewing the questions in advance. The web page summarizes all the questions and it has a link to an FAQ, which includes all the questions verbatim. Next slide. So there's two parts to the online screening form. Part 1 can be completed by the owner or the owner's authorized agent, like an HOA or property manager. Some buildings will be determined to be exempt based on their answers to Part 1 of the form and will not need to hire an engineer. However, if the answers provided in Part 1 do not exempt the building, then the owner or agent must hire a California licensed architect or engineer to complete Part 2 of the form. This part of the form also includes the questions from Part 1, plus up to 8 additional questions about the building structure. Next slide. So I'm going to quickly walk you through what the form looks like. This is what it looks like once you click into the online screening form. I'm showing the owner view. So after a page explaining the purpose of the form, you can see on the right, you have the opportunity to enter your address. Next slide. Then you'll be prompted to input your applicant information. If you're the owner, you would select owner. You can select owner's agent or HOA, or if you're a design professional, you select design professional. And this page determines which version of the form you see. Next slide. The first page asks me for how many stories my building has. And my example building has one building portion that's only 1 story tall and another building portion that is 4 stories tall. And this is true. This is a real building that I went through this for. My example building was constructed before July 1st of 1999. So I said yes to the question on the right. If the answer is no, I would need to provide the specific date of construction of the building. Next slide. As I mentioned, my example building has a portion that's only 1 story tall. I use the measuring tool in Google Maps to determine that the footprint of that building portion is about 1,700 square feet. So that's smaller than 3,000. So I selected no. The question on the right asks me, is this an R3 occupancy building? In other words, is this a single family home or a duplex? My answer is no. Next slide. There are 2 questions here about prior retrofit. My building was not a part of the unreinforced masonry retrofit program that the city implemented in the 90s and early 2000s, and it has not had a retrofit meeting any of the listed retrofit standards here on the right. So my answer is no to both of these questions about retrofit. Next slide. At this point, part 1 of the form ends, and I'm prompted to hire an engineer to complete part 2 of the form. On the right, I have an example confirmation email that applicants will receive once the form is fully submitted. But this screen on the left is what, if you're a design professional, what your clients might see before reaching out to you. So I just wanted to show you what that looks like. Next slide. If you'd like more information about the concrete building screening program, we have a webpage, email address, and phone number listed here. Next slide. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurel, for your presentation. It looks like we have a question from Aravan. Can I set up an account that will auto-populate my information as the engineer when I'm doing many of these forms?
That's a really good question. And no, to my knowledge, we currently do not have a feature like that. This is a much more basic application than the PermitSF application.
Great, thank you. Do we have any additional questions for Laurel? All right. If anyone has any additional questions about any of the topics that we discussed today in the forum, I've put up our email address, dbi.communications@sfgov.org on the screen. Feel free to email us at any time and we'll get back to you with an answer as soon as we can. Thank you so much for attending today's forum and have a great night.